Unfortunately, Willow was a lackluster main character. My biggest issue with him was his near absence of agency throughout the entire book. Hello, welcome to another book review. I'm your host, Kristen, and today I will be reviewing the YA fantasy book, Animalia, Runaway, by Zenobab Zorkot. In case you're interested in buying this book afterward, content warnings are animal injury/death, murder, nightmares, electrocution, global warming, mentions of genocide, ethnic cleansing, manipulation, and mentions of torture. I will start with the overall plot, then writing, world building, and finally the characters. Also, this review will be spoiler free until between these timestamps, so if you want to avoid spoilers, I recommend skipping over that section. Now that those notes are out of the way, let's begin. According to the back of the book, the plot is as follows. In a world thousands of years after the death of humans, animals rose to power and gained sentience, constructing their own civilizations. They tried to learn from the mistakes of the humans, but still committed the same atrocities and fell into many wars throughout history. Now, in the kingdoms of the north, a war rages between two rival nations, Rether and Oakrose. After a vicious attack on Oakrose, the family of a young cat named Willow is taken prisoner. Willow, a half-blood between Oakrose and Rether, is left alone in his kingdom where they try to kill him for his Rethan blood. However, just as Willow thought he would die, 3 mysterious outlaws save him from Oakrose's clutches. Willow must learn about these animals and fight to stop their differing, dangerous goals as they go on a deadly trek to Rether. The whole time, he has no idea why everyone wants him for his blood, but he must make sure that no one spills it. Even though the plot of this book was simple, it was still good. Definitely better than anything I wrote at that age. Willow was forced to flee and team up with Thistle within the first few chapters, which was an exciting start. I also thought it was great how quickly all the main characters were introduced, along with their own personal goals. It was also nice that they highlighted the importance of the city key that would result in Oakrose's downfall, since it would be difficult to make a new one. That said, I did have a few issues with the plot. For one, the pacing at the beginning was too fast. Although this resulted in an action-packed start, it also made it hard to empathize with Willow's situation. The cat having to leave his kingdom was sad, but it was challenging to feel the depth of his loss when the reader didn't get to know what friends Willow would be leaving behind. Furthermore, the journey through the forest was decent, but it would have been interesting to see more natural dangers as well. For instance, there was a rock slide that I found thrilling when it almost took out Thistle. I only wished that there had been similar elements. The guards that pursued the team also mildly annoyed me, as there was only one of them at a time. Sure, Oakrose was running out of money and resources, but this effort was to take back an item that could cost them the war. Shouldn't Oakrose have been throwing everything they had at that? My complaints aside, these details didn't impact my overall enjoyment too much. Having the plot intertwine with different parts of Oakrose was a fantastic way to incorporate world building. Plus, I did like how the main goal, not including the subplots, of getting to Rether was straightforward. This made for a quick and easy read, which I found pleasant. Regarding the writing, it was middle of the road. The locations were described enough where I could visualize them, as well as smell and hearing being included once in a while. Yet, I still felt as if the other senses could have been included more. There was also a lot of word proximity and repeating of information, such as mentioning multiple times that the animals didn't know why humans went extinct. This was where beta readers would have come in handy, as they could have spotted those errors. I'm sure that Xenobab didn't know about beta readers at the time, which is understandable given how they were only around 14 when this book was published, so I won't count that against them. Elements of the writing I did enjoy were the character interactions. They all felt natural, and it was plenty of fun to watch how each animal played off one another. I especially appreciated how their goals conflicted. It caused plenty of tension within the group, which kept me engaged in how it would all resolve. The world building in this book was decent. I thought it was great how the 4 animals had to go through more of Oakro's before being able to finally escape. Not only did seeing the locations, such as the park, downtown, and the mansions, help flesh out the world more, but it also made the kingdom feel lived in. I also appreciated the variety of animals milling about, as that also helped with making Oakro's feel like an actual place. Still, I was curious as to why the disputed territory the group walked through wasn't more dangerous. If there was a war going on, why weren't there more soldiers out in the field? After the siege in the northern part of the city from the prologue, I was surprised that a counterattack wasn't at least being prepared. Was Oakwood's really that low on recruits? Were they just planning to hide behind their walls forever? Another part I felt could have been handled more tactfully was the ethnic cleansing of any Oakrosians with Rether blood. Whenever the subject was brought up, it seemed to be swept under the rug by everyone until the end chapters. Oakros had committed a war crime, and it was apparently publicly known what had happened. Yet, all the citizens of Oakros seemed fine with it. This resulted in not having any deeper explorations, such as subtle biases against half-Retherians. It left the event feeling shallow and like it was merely made for drama. A piece of world building I did like, though, were the sentience of animals and hunting. It was noted by Willow that not every animal had gained the ability to have human-like thoughts. Therefore, it was socially acceptable to hunt and eat non-sentient animals such as mice. I thought this was a good solution for animals that needed meat in their diets without creating a ton of questionable practices. Unfortunately, Willow was a lackluster main character. My biggest issue with him was his near absence of agency throughout the entire book. He was merely dragged around by the other characters and rarely made any pivotal choices. Willow was also mildly irritating at times. I could tell the author meant for him to be the moral compass of the group, but the way Willow reacted to some situations was just odd. For example, Willow was nearly executed for being half Retherian. Despite all that, what confused me was why Willow still wanted to remain loyal and got upset whenever Thistle bad-mouthed Oakrose. Plus, his solution of wanting both kingdoms to talk everything out seemed naive. From my perspective, Willow also seemed to have little survival instincts. He was horrified by any amount of violence, even if it was to save his life. Willow even cried over the dead guards who were attempting to kill him. Willow's flaws aside, he did have some positive traits. He cared deeply for everyone around him and wanted to help his family in any way he could. I also admired his willingness to help stop the war and even take action during the end chapters. And now a brief word from our sponsor, me. Yes, this is a self-advertisement. Recently, I have decided to open my Safe for Work art commissions indefinitely. I can draw people, animals, anthros, and full scenes. If you want to order a commission from me, more examples and pricing can be found in the description under the Other Places to Find Me section. As a second announcement, for those who don't know, I recently started putting more designs on my Redbubble shop. I am hoping to get at least a new design done per month since my internship will become hectic. At my shop, you can find LGBT plus merch, gift for writers, and cute animal designs. They are all available on stickers, shirts, and much, much more. The link is also in the same section below. Thank you for listening, and back to the review. Marula was a great addition to the group. I have a huge soft spot for cold and distant characters, slowly warming up to others, and Marula definitely fit that trope, which wasn't a bad thing. Marula slowly opening up to Willow was adorable. They had plenty of cute interactions, and I admired how protective the hyena was of Willow. Given how Marula mentioned that she only had one true friend back in Oakrose, it was great to see her gain another pal. A second trait I thought was neat was how Marula excelled at combat. Being a former royal guard, she had plenty of skill despite being the youngest of the group. This allowed her to save the entire team more than once. Marula even managed to kill the top general of Oakrose. However, Willow often ran off during fights, meaning that the reader never got to witness the full extent of Marula's skill. Finally, Marula's quest for revenge was fascinating. She was holding a deep-seated grudge for both those in Oakrose and Rether. One of them happened to be the general she defeated, as Marula was angry about him getting away with war crimes. The other animals on Marula's hit list were not named, but I have a hunch they'll appear in the second book. Plus, there still needs to be an explanation on why Marula is doing these things to begin with. It makes me more excited to read book 2. At first, Thistle was fun. Her arrogant and snarky personality contrasted wonderfully with Willow's nervousness and uncertainty. It was entertaining how they interacted with each other, especially when it came to Willow being anxious about being caught. I also enjoyed Thistle's banter with Asphalt and how they constantly exasperated Marula. The one detail I did not care for, however, was how adamant Thistle was about committing genocide against Oakrose. I understood that Thistle was an antagonist, but there were several points in which Willow sympathized with her. Willow even went as far as once thinking that he understood why Thistle wanted to kill everyone in Oakrose. The other three in the group also kept putting off trying to convince Thistle not to commit genocide, as if the topic was not important. When Thistle went as far as murdering someone, all she had to do was apologize in order to be accepted into the team again. This went for any time Thistle was eager to be violent, even if it wasn't necessary or put everyone in more danger. In other words, it felt like Thistle suffered no long-term consequences for her actions. Furthermore, part of Thistle's story was written as if she was supposed to be a tragic figure, such as when Thistle was upset about having never done a heroic deed in her life. Thistle also brought up how she hated herself, as if that would somehow erase or excuse all of her crimes. All of that aside, her confrontation with Asphalt at the end was intense. I thought that her explanation behind her actions was a little weak, but it just went to show how even Thistle herself could end up being manipulated. Plus, I thought her work as an anthropologist that studied humans was a neat touch to her character. Asphalt was decent, but I wished he got more of the spotlight. His plans to stop the war between the two countries was courageous, but not all that thought out. I'm not gonna count this against his character though. His idea to use Willow as a bargaining chip was interesting, and I do wonder how his ambitions will unfold from here. Since Asphalt was a noble before joining the team, I was amused at the bit of culture clash he had while traveling through the woods. It was funny that he was disgusted and didn't know how to eat raw prey, considering that owls tend to swallow their catches whole. Asphalt's reaction just showed how much the owl was used to modern comforts such as cooked meat. The few complaints I do have about Asphalt are small. I did wish that Asphalt was given more of a backstory. The bits the reader got weren't bad at all, but they needed to be explored further down the line. For example, I did like his backstory as one of the few nobles trained to hold onto an Oak-Rose key for the wall. When Asphalt also spoke about his mother, there was also some clear, interesting tension there as well. I only wish that it had been more fleshed out. Thankfully, I do believe that Asphalt's character gets expanded upon during Book 2. According to the preview I read, Asphalt has quite a different viewpoint and voice than Willow. I can't wait to see what he will get up to in the sequel. Alright, now onto the spoilers. I'll count to 3 seconds if you want to keep this book spoiler free. 1, 2, 3. And here we go. Thistle believing the entire theory against Oak-Rose felt too far-fetched. The rumors that Oak-Rose was planning on taking over the entire continent felt made up. Thistle also thought that the new king of Oak-Rose wanted to live forever by taking the immortality pills found in the human ruins. This was considering that Oak-Rose was barely able to fund the fight against Rether. So how would it be possible for Oak-Rose to conquer several other countries when they were already struggling to win one war? The confrontation with Queen Cassiopeia was also a tad confusing. Willow did attempt to threaten to abdicate the throne, but I didn't understand why the queen would be furious. Sure, it was established that the royal family wanted Willow on the throne in order to re-establish dignity, but why would the queen essentially want to give up her position and power, especially since Willow's ancestor violently overthrew the previous Rether bloodline. Why honor the bloodline of a villain? Finally, Thistle's death and funeral felt rushed. The raccoon offered her own life in exchange for the queen, sparing both Marula and Asphalt. When the queen still attempted to kill Asphalt, however, Thistle jumped in the way and was fatally hit. I did actually like that part, as Asphalt and Thistle had been at odds during the entire journey. However, these events occurred at the very end and thus only had a few pages to wrap up. I am also curious as to what the group will do now that the queen has the Okro's key and can essentially finish the war. Overall, I give this book 3.5 stars. The characters were entertaining and I loved the interactions between the four of them. The world building and plot did need some work, but it wasn't terrible. I especially thought that it was well written given how young the author was when she was published. I thoroughly enjoyed the book and am looking forward to diving into the second one. I hope Xenobab will keep improving her craft and wish her the best of luck on her writing journey.